We got Carly Judas taking on Nicole Cagliari, and Carly Judas had an amazing night. The last time she stepped into the octagon, she got her first UFC win. She got a highlight reel knockout and a $50,000 bonus for less than 2 minutes of work. So Judas fought Eunice Dubin, who had a kind of a hype train going following a big underdog knockout on Contender Series, but Judas shut down that momentum and turned the lights out with a beautiful head kick of her own. And prior to that fight with Dubin, Judas had gone 0-2 in UFC competitions. She lost on the Contender Series. She lost her UFC debut. But both losses were split decisions. And at 26 years old, Judas has an opportunity to make a run to the top of the division. But she can't slip on a banana peel here versus Cagliari. She needs to get the win, look good. For Nicole Cagliari, second fight for her in the UFC. She lost a split decision in her debut, which was January 11th of this year. And she had won 4 in a row and won on Contender Series to earn a UFC contract previous to that. She was looking really impressive because she hadn't just won those 4 fights, but she finished all 4 of her opponents during that run. And her win on the Contender Series was a first-round submission. And her debut, she came up a little short. It was kind of it was a competitive fight, but I felt like Cagliari clearly lost. But she's 28, so she's right around her prime. And I feel like this is a good matchup for both girls. But the first thing that pops off the page when you see these two is the size difference. Carly Judas has 4 inches in height. She has 6 inches in reach on Cagliari. And Cagliari has also had fights at 115, whereas Judas has fought at 135 before, and they're meeting in the middle at 125. But Judas, good striker, southpaw, tall, mobile, athletic, long, high volume. She has the knockout threat, obviously. All her wins are finishes. And at range, she works her kicks really well. She'll counter with her hands, good head movement, nice jabs, nice lead hooks, nice straight and overhand lefts. She'll throw knees up the middle. Her Muay Thai is pretty good. Good elbows in the clinch. And pressuring Judas, forcing a brawl, or kind of using pressure or feints to draw out shots and then countering is what I think is the way to go. We saw Karakite really push a crazy pace on Carly Judas on Contender Series, and the pressure nullified the kicks of Judas mostly and turned her into a boxer, where Karakite was able to walk through Judas's punches. Judas isn't a light puncher, but she definitely doesn't have a ton of power in her hands. And she has a chin. She could eat shots and come back with her own, and she's throwing in combination. And her kicks, her knees, really her lower body is what you have to be more worried about from a knockout perspective. But as the fight goes on, Judas's volume stays the same. Her opponent's does not, and she could start to take over. So once you slow down, she is going to push the pace and try to take you out. We saw her absorb big bombs from Gabriela Fernandez, who's one of the heaviest hitters in the weight division. She knocked out Kong Wang, but Judas was able to absorb those big shots. She lost the first 2 rounds, but she came back, dominated the third. So I feel like she is a very good striker. And her wrestling grappling is unknown, really. Her footwork is on point. She'll threaten knees when fighters shoot. Solid balance. So if you get in on her legs, you probably have to chain wrestle or push her to the fence to finish the takedown. And she's won some Naga tournaments, so she has some jiu-jitsu, but we just haven't seen it in MMA yet. She did get her kick caught and cage wrestled a little bit versus Gabriela Fernandez, but didn't get controlled for long or taken down. And she even did a takedown of her own in that Fernandez fight, but the round ended really quickly after she got on top. But so we just don't really know about her grappling in terms of MMA, and it's going to be interesting. In this fight, I think that she wants to completely try to avoid grappling with Cagliari. But Cagliari, she's a finisher just like Judas. She has 8 wins, 8 finishes, 5 knockouts, 3 submissions. And it's rare you see a matchup between 2 fighters in the UFC where both fighters have a 100% finish rate in general, and even more rare in women's MMA. So that shows you how this is a pretty fun matchup. But Cagliari, 0-2 in decisions. So if this fight hits the scorecard, someone's O has to go in that regard. But one thing Cagliari has in spades over Judas is experience. She's been a pro fighter for 10 plus years. She had some kickboxing matches as well. Should have seen some southpaws, maybe some tall fighters before, so it's not going to be totally foreign for her. And she's a bit of a brawler. She has a long bladed stance. She tries to explode in and out. She'll throw big hooks. But her striking is a means to an end to close the distance, clinch you, and try to get her grappling going. She uses a ton of big actions, and she's uncomfortable versus effective pressure, which when you're fighting Carly Judas, I don't think that's something that's going to be the greatest for you. And she will wear down with all the big movements, probably run into something big that hurts her or takes her out if she does struggle to get the takedown or can't finish early. She did fight someone who's similar to Judas in her last fight, so it was good experience. And she was landing some big right hands, some leg kicks early, but I just feel like overall, if this fight stays standing, it's going to be a major advantage for Judas. And when Cagliari can get clinched up, she is strong. She can body lock you. She has good timing on the doubles, nice judo. She'll jump on submissions. She had a nice armbar in Contender Series, and her last 3 wins in a row are all submission wins. She's by far the best grappler that Judas will have faced in MMA, so I think that it's imperative for her to try to test Judas's grappling. If she can't get it to the ground, which I think it will be kind of hard for her, it could get ugly, but I actually was kind of impressed with her last fight. She was able to go 3 rounds with Ernesta Karakite, who even got Carly Judas tired, and she slowed down, but she was still fairly competitive in the third. I expected her cardio to kind of be a little bit worse than it was, but ultimately, man, I just think that Judas here is going to be too big, too athletic, and I don't think she's going to let Cagliari out-grapple her, take her down, or submit her early. And I just feel like she's going to continue to walk down Cagliari. She has more weapons, and she either is going to win a decision, or I think she's going to win in second or third round with the KO TKO. So give me Carly Judas for the win in this matchup. And up next year, we got Jackson McVeigh taking on Bruno Ferreira. And McVeigh's had a wild last month and some changes in his life. He fought on June 13th, and he had an amazing performance. He won via first-round knockout. He accepted a fight June 28th at UFC 317. He had 2 different opponents for that date, but both of them didn't end up working out. He actually weighed in to fight Chris Ewart, and Ewart weighed in 10 pounds overweight, so the fight got scrapped by the commission, and the UFC is getting McVeigh another short notice fight. They're honoring it and giving him this matchup, which is good, against Bruno Ferreira. But, man, I mean, going from fighting Cedricus Dumas, Christopher Ewart, to now having to face a top 15 guy in Bruno Ferreira, it's a big opportunity, but it's a really hard fight. And McVeigh, he's won 11 fights in a row. He hasn't lost in over 5 years, so he's going to be confident, but we'll see exactly how he'll look. You saw Bruno Ferreira, he was able to go in there and shock the world by beating Gregory Rodriguez in his first UFC fight, so we'll see if McVeigh can pull off a similar upset. For Bruno, it's more just a paycheck for him. He was going to fight Iker Aliskarov, who was going to be his ticket to the top 10, but now he's fighting a newcomer, so he needs to steamroll here and stay concentrated, not fall victim to kind of a letdown trap fight type of spot here. McVeigh, dangerous, tall man type of fighter. He's going to be way taller and longer than Bruno, 6 inches in height, 5 inches in reach, but he doesn't really utilize that reach to stay long because at distance, he's going to be very vulnerable here because of the speed disadvantage and the ability to close distance that Bruno has. But he is a decent jab, chuck, hook, McVeigh. He'll throw some kicks, but he likes to get in the clinch and try to get heavy, throw knees, elbows, eventually try to get in a front headlock position, snap you down, work those front chokes, and you have to protect your neck even in the standing clinch with McVeigh. In general, McVeigh's looking to jump the neck from anywhere. 3 of his 6 wins are front choke wins. He has multiple wins in under 1 minute, and he also has first-round knockouts. So this guy goes in there, gets out of there. He doesn't like to spend a lot of time in the octagon. He does have 1 decision win as an amateur where he beat someone that's currently 4-1 as a pro, so I guess that's not a terrible look there, but he really has no experience or not much experience in longer fights. But Bruno Ferreira is killer be killed as well, with all 15 of his pro fights ending inside the distance. The vast majority of his fights have ended in round one as well. And Bruno, bowling ball type of guy who's waiting to explode, take your head off. He has a narrow bladed stance. He'll look to move around, feint fake, and then try to lull you, pull you into big fire. And in this fight, I think he's going to have plenty of chances to explode on McVeigh, land a big knee, big overhand and elbow. And he did get exposed a little bit on the ground in his loss to Abus Magomedov, where he kept overextending and giving bad positions, and he got controlled and gassed out. And his style, of exploding, spinning a lot, it can lead to that. But he has, I believe, the grappling to handle someone like McVeigh. And I think him by knockout here is what's most likely going to happen. I think Bruno Ferreira is probably going to get the first round KO. I think he's too athletic, too experienced. He's going to use his speed, power, his movement, and I think he's going to find that chin and get McVeigh out of there. And I know most people are down on this card, but honestly, I like most of the fights on this card. This is not one of them, though. Ryan Spann versus Lucas Bresky. Don't got too much to say about this one. I mean, I think you have to go with Ryan Spann as the side. He's too skilled. He's a big guy, southpaw. He's going to be looking to land that big left down the middle, the check hook. He has the guillotine upside. Bresky, just unimpressive. It's crazy. Both these guys got like one wild win recently where Dom Reyes got comatose by Ryan Spann, and then you see what he's doing recently. I mean, how did Ryan Spann go out there and just fucking dust Dominic Reyes like that? That's pretty crazy to me. And then Lucas Bresky getting the win over Walter Walker, who's just freaking Toquinho 2.0. So, I don't know, man. I mean, these guys have some wild wins, but outside of that, Bresky has lost all his fights in the UFC. And then Ryan Spann, the only fight he's won in the last 5 years that went past the first round is the split decision win over Sam Alvey. So, if Bresky gets out of the first round, he's going to be a live underdog. But at the end of the day, is he going to do it? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say Ryan Spann first round knockout here. I just think the athleticism and skill gap is going to get him the win. But total pass fight, in my opinion. And this next one, we got Marcin Prachnio taking on Jimmy Crute. And Jimmy Crute, super strange run in the UFC. He first joined the UFC. He was like a blue chip prospect. He was 7-0. He was only 22 years old. People were looking at him as a potentially future title contender. He won 4 of his first 5 UFC fights inside the distance as well. So people were kind of looking like they were going to be proven right. But after his loss to Anthony Smith, he took a layoff, got knocked out by Jamal Hill, and since then he's just not really gotten his footing back. He took 2 years off. He came back in 2023, fought Alonzo Menefield, had a war, went to a draw, had an immediate rematch with Menefield, then got finished in the second fight. He retired after the second Menefield fight, ended up finding his passion for the sport again, came back and fought Rodolfo Bellato. Dominated the first round. He almost got the finish, but ended up winning the first round 10-8 and then lost the second and third and had another draw. So winless in his last 5 fights. He has to win here to save his job. I mean, the guy hasn't won a fight since 2020, so must win for him. And Marcin Prachnio, someone I would be very surprised is still in the UFC 7 years after his debut where he got knocked out. He started off 0-3 with 3 first-round knockout losses, but he's won 4 of his last 6 fights, and he's proven to be a tricky guy, UFC level, coming off that loss to Modestas Bukauskas. And matchup-wise, it's kind of a hard fight for Prachnio. Prachnio, he's beaten some wrestlers, like he beat Devin Clark, he beat William Knight, but he's only 1-3 in fights where he's given up a takedown in the UFC. He's been submitted in his last 2 losses with an arm triangle, which is one of Jimmy Crute's go-to submissions. And Jimmy Crute is super dangerous in the first round. He has elite wrestling for 205, and his striking is also on point. He likes to hold the center. He'll use his speed. He'll chop the legs. He'll jab at range. He likes to stand his ground, wait for fighters to come to him, and then try to counter with 3-2s, 2-3s. He has good hand speed, good power, nice short uppercuts, knees on the inside. So he's not a terrible striker. It's just he doesn't maintain his gas tank well. And as fights go on, he starts to drop his hands. He starts to stand in the center and wait for the counters, but his reactions aren't as good, and he starts to get clipped and rocked. And he also stands very heavy on that lead leg. He's gotten that chewed up in multiple fights. He had that injury that Michael Chandler, Henry Cejudo had against Anthony Smith that cost him that fight. But he's only been knocked out 1 time, so he's pretty durable. And he survived a ton of damage off of Alonzo Menefield. His last fight, he didn't really take as much damage, but he just lost the last 2 rounds. And he hasn't won a fight that's gone past the first round since 2018. So, obviously, extending him is the way to go if you're going to fight him. But he's strong, explosive. If he gets on top, he has a great chance to finish, especially in the first round. His last fight, he almost finished Bellato on the ground and then almost knocked him out when it got back to the feet in the first round. But he just needs to close the door and finish the job this time if he does get in those dominant positions on the mat. But Prochnio, karate guy, he's going to have to try to extend the fight. He's someone who's always going to be tricky because he switched stances. He's pretty mobile for the weight class. He'll kind of duck and dip and just be really offbeat, off rhythm. He'll throw hooks, overhands from weird angles. He has decent kicks, and he'll attack all parts of the body. So it's just an awkward style to deal with. And if you can't cut the cage off or control the center on Prochnio, he will point you to a decision. If you get really aggressive on him, he can sit down and get wild. He actually hurt Modestas Bukauskas a couple times in their last fight. But he's only gotten 1 finish, and it was with the body shot. So he hasn't been able to really knock anyone out at UFC level. And he's been finishing 5 of his 6 UFC losses. 3 knockout losses for Prochnio. So I feel like he's the less durable guy. But, you know, he's not much of a wrestler or grappler. You saw that in the fight with Petrino. He got taken down and ended up getting finished in that one. Petrino is a pretty decent prospect. But then his last fight with Modestas Bukauskas had never gotten a takedown in the UFC, and he was able to break Prochnio with the wrestling and then end up finishing him on the ground. So that wasn't a good look for me. And Prochnio is also coming in this fight off of a year layoff. He's 36 years old, so there are some red flags with him. I think he's a live underdog in this fight. He's going to have the leg kicks available, and he could land a crazy kick, wild shot on Crute. But he also has really bad cardio. And he gassed out in like 3 minutes in his last fight. So there's no way that I could really come in here and confidently say he's going to be able to have a way better gas tank. I mean, it's not that likely that he's going to be super fresh either. He basically gave the choke to Bukauskas after trying to finish him in the third. So I'm going to say Crute with the submission in this one. But I think fight doesn't go to decision is a better play than either money line. And I kind of, if I'm going to bet the money line, I'll go with Prochnio because I don't think Crute should be that big of a favorite. But prediction-wise, and we got Adam Fugit taking on Islam Dulatov in this next one. And for Adam Fugit, it's been over a year since the last time we saw him. He's 36 years old, so this is do or die for him. He got in the UFC at a later age, but he's managed to stick around for a few fights now. He last fought Josh Quinlan, which was June of 2024. He won via split decision, and he has 2 wins in the UFC and 2 losses. His losses were to Mike Malott and Michael Morales, so high-level guys. And he actually was going to fight Dulatov in February, but he had to pull out of that fight, or I think Dulatov pulled out, and then Fugan got another opponent, and he had to pull out. So whatever happened, the fight didn't end up going down, and they rescheduled it. But Dulatov, he's making his UFC debut, but a nasty striker. 11 wins in a row for him. He's finished all 11 of those fights as well, and 10 of them he's finished in the first round. His last fight, he had a great battle with Finotoy and Tunis on Contender Series. He bit down on the mouthpiece. He went to war. He took some big shots, but ultimately he came out on the other end with a knockout win. And this fight, I think if Dulatov wins, it's going to prove that he's the real deal. He is fighting a long southpaw, experienced. So he's fighting a tough opponent, and we'll see exactly how he looks here. But Fugit's a big underdog, but we've seen him beat knockout artists before with Solomon Renfro, Yusaku Kinoshita, Josh Quinlan. Even in his loss to Michael Morales, he had a decent fight with him until he got finished in the third. He has one knockout loss to Kalen Hill from back in 2018, where he got hit with a jumping punch that he didn't see. But he's been pretty tough to get out of there in general. I mean, the only guys that have stopped him outside of his two knockout losses is Mike Malott. And he has good defense. He's long, he's southpaw, he makes it tricky. Good job keeping his hands high, shelling, parrying punches. He's experienced, and he stays on the outside pretty well. He likes to counter with the lead right hook. He'll throw some nice front kicks, round kicks to the body, a good straight left hand. He goes to the body with the straight left, and at times he can get a little impatient and press forward. And when he tries to get aggressive, that's when he can get in trouble because he doesn't really move his head. He's not the fastest guy. Tends to drop his hands when he throws kicks. But when he's staying long, when he's throwing the kicks from the proper distance, when he's countering with the hands, he's fairly good, and he stays calm under fire. So if you pressure him, he does a pretty good job of countering that. He can wrestle, but his wrestling can be a little sloppy sometimes. He did get a nice takedown in the first round on Michael Morales, and it seemed like, in round 3, he came in really aggressive in pursuit of the takedown in that fight, and that's what got him TKO'd. But he can catch kicks and hit takedowns. He can get body locks. When he gets a hold of you, or he can time the takedown appropriately, he's pretty technical with the wrestling. It's just closing the distance to wrestle is where his issue is. But in top position, he looks really good. He has nice control, length. He has 3 submission wins. And he's only been submitted against Mike Malott, and that was after getting hurt really bad on the feet. But Fugit's cardio is good as well. And he's going to want to extend the fight, and we'll see how he does if he can get into the later rounds. But Islam Dulatov, this guy's been a menace in his MMA career thus far. He shows no respect to his opponents. He'll walk them down. He just serves them up. He has beautiful offense. He's tall, long, lanky, which this fight he has a range disadvantage, which could be new. He usually has a gigantic height and reach advantage over a lot of guys that he's fought, but this one it's going to be him having the disadvantage. But he will have a huge speed edge here, and he rips kicks to the legs, front kicks to the body, really nice feints. He backs you up and unloads with nasty hand combinations that he will mix kicks in it too as well. And elite killer instinct, great hand speed, technical offense. He uses the jab to set things up. He mixes up the target. He'll go body, he'll go head. And he's super fast when he blitzes in. And he could definitely catch a slower Fugit possibly with the big blitz early. But he is a little reckless. His accuracy is super impressive. He's been able to take some shots, eat them, and then keep throwing and knock people out. In this fight, he needs to be a little bit careful with the check hook, and he does tend to pull back with his chin high. He's facing another tall guy, so just respect Fugit's length and counter ability, and then also, if you could tell that Fugit is probably going to last, don't blow your wad trying to finish him, but I think he's going to have a great chance to get the job done early. But his grappling hasn't been tested very much. He has good distance control. He has a nice sprawl. several guillotine front choke wins on his record too. So if you're lazy, if you shoot in, he can grab your neck, but not too much on his grappling and wrestling that we've seen against someone that's at Fugitt's level. And I do think Fugitt has a chance here if he can weather the storm. But ultimately, though, Duotov's body kicks, I think, could end Fugitt. And I could also see him exploding in with a big combination. So I just think the speed and athleticism advantage is going to be too much. And I also think that Fugitt isn't someone who's going to be that evasive or try to run away. He's a finisher himself. He's going to want to throw down, look for the counter. And I'm going to say Dulatov wins the first round knockout. And up next here, we got an interesting matchup with the Tiba Gaudier taking on Robert Valentin. And I'm having a little bit of trouble with this, and I wanted to originally go with the upset, pick Valentin, because I do feel like Gaudier is very overrated. His wrestling, his grappling, I just don't have any faith in it. We saw him fight that fighter on the Contender Series, and he got taken down in the first round, was just flat on his back. It looked like he was totally lost. And Valentin does have good grappling. If he can get a takedown, if he can get on top, maybe he could exploit him. And I think that he could wrestle, use his judo to win. But the thing about Robert Valentin is he doesn't have the best fight IQ. He hasn't been winning lately, so you don't know exactly where his head is at. And he also likes to strike, so it's just a tough one because the athleticism advantage is so big for Gautier, but even though he has good, really natural instincts, it seems like his striking is on point. You can't hate on his power. He has good timing. He'll throw nice selection of attacks. Like he has good knees up the middle, nice uppercuts. He times shots well, but he's not really like a combination puncher too much. He's looking to land big 1-2 shot attacks. And he has good timing, good accuracy, great speed and power. And he's only going to get better. He's 23 years old and he's new to the sport. But Valentin, he's a big guy, long, rangy. He's looking for elbows. He's a little slow and he gets rocked early in a lot of fights, which is why I got to go with Gaudier as an official prediction via first round knockout. But if Valentin can get it to the ground, he has a great chance to win this fight, expose Gautier, and pull off a big upset. So I think if you're looking at it from a betting perspective, go with Robert Valentin, maybe go with the under. But from a pure prediction perspective, I just think the trajectory of these two guys' careers and just the fact that Valentin, I've seen him get hurt in the first round against lesser opposition. I don't know if he's going to be able to survive the way he did against them and come back against a guy like Gautier. So I'm going to say Gautier via first round knockout, but this is a dog or pass fight in my opinion. And continuing along here, the next fight we got on the card of Francisco Prado taking on Nikolai Veretnikov. And Prado, he's probably the only UFC fighter with a 1-3 record I could say has been impressive. I mean, the guy debuted at 20 years old in the UFC, had a good fight back and forth with Jamie Malarkey, but lost a decision there. Bounced back, got his lone UFC win against Otman Azatar, where he got a brutal first-round knockout, collected $50,000 for that knockout. He then won another $50K bonus in his fight with Daniel Zohuber, which was an epic fight. Took a year off after that when he came back at 170 in February. Fought Jake Matthews, who's a great fighter, pushed him as well, but lost via decision. And he's been fighting extremely tough competition. He's been doing well, but just hasn't gotten over the hump. So only 23 years old, and we're going to see if he can keep his head on straight and has continued to improve, and maybe we could see him as a contender in the future, but he has to win this fight against Nikolai Veretnikov. Nikolai, he's had a very hard strength of schedule himself. He fought Michael Morales on Contender Series. He then fought Danny Barlow, and he lost via split decision against Danny Barlow in a fight that a lot of people thought he could have gotten the nod in. So obviously he had a good performance in that fight, but then his last fight was a rough one against Austin Vanderford. Bad matchup for him, and he kind of got smashed. He was stopped on the ground, and the stoppage was a little soft, but Veretnikov couldn't get out of the position, and then he He was pissed. He went and pushed Vanderford and all that. So just wasn't a good night for him. But he's 35 years old. He has to win this fight if he wants to keep his job. He can't go 0-3 in the UFC. But stylistically, you look at Vrednikov, he's a power puncher. He has 9 knockouts, nasty lead hook. He can land it with power, going forward or backwards. He'll throw nice jabs. He'll throw straights, body head. He's good at attacking the body. He'll throw hard kicks to the body as well. Good knees to the body. He isn't the fastest, but he's big for the weight. He's methodical. He's good with his offense and his defense. He has brick hands, and if he connects, he can put you away. And his striking defense is solid. He's only been finished with strikes twice, but one was in 2014, and then his last fight against Vanderford, he just got stuck in a position. It wasn't like he got TKO'd because he got rocked badly or anything like that. But he's going to have a good height and reach advantage in this fight, and he's probably going to want to stay safe and keep it on the feet, stay at distance, and then clinch when Prado tries to get too aggressive and just mix it up in that manner. But he is good at exploding with strikes and crossing the distance, clinching you, and he's big for the weight. He can kind of slow you down, wear on you, but his wrestling defense hasn't been good, and he's bad on his back. In his Contender Series fight, he got out-wrestled against Michael Morales, and then his fight with Vanderford, obviously got finished on the ground. He did beat a couple wrestlers on the regional scene, but his wrestling needs to really improve if he wants to stick around at UFC level. Prado does have some wrestling chops, so we'll see if he can actually get it going in this one. But Francisco Prado, he's an explosive striker, light on his feet. He has good kicks. He'll attack all parts of the body with his kicks. He has power punches. He loves to spin. He has a spinning elbow knockout in the UFC. I don't think he has the greatest hands. If you can counter his kicks and walk him down, you can land on him. And I think he needs to wrestle in this fight. He will have a speed advantage on the feet, and he has some power, but he's small for 170. I don't know how much his power is going to translate to this weight class. Jake Matthews ate his shots pretty easy. But Prado will mix it up. He has good double legs, good body locks. He doesn't have the cardio, though, in my opinion, to come in and have a heavy wrestling game plan. He has to hit easy takedowns, get control time, and do it that way. But the majority of Prado's wins have actually came on the ground. He has 6 submission wins, a couple ground and pound finishes. But in the UFC, he only has 1 takedown. And he took down Jake Matthews, but he couldn't hold him down. He did shoot several takedowns versus Otman Azaitar, but got stuffed. So, conditioning-wise, he's a dog. He had wars with Daniel Zellhuber, Jake Matthews, Malarkey, but he's lost round 3 in all three of his UFC fights. And he's 0-3 in decisions. And on top of that, he's only won 1 round out of 9 completed rounds in UFC competitions. So he just hasn't been that competitive. But if Prado can use his wrestling and show he's made improvements with his control or his cardio, he could win a decision here. But I just kind of slightly favor Vrednikov. I think he's the bigger guy, hits harder. I think he's going to walk down Prado. I think he's going to land heavier offense and kind of take over down the stretch. And maybe he gets taken down, but I don't know if Prado's going to have the cardio to continue to take him down over 3 rounds. And I think if Vrednikov could start stuffing 1-2 takedowns, Prado will stop going for him. So give me Vrednikov to win this one 29-28. And up next year, man, we got the grudge match that's finally going to go down on Saturday night between Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen. This fight was scheduled to go down April 2024. Never ended up happening, and then it actually popped off in a Las Vegas casino last year where these guys got in a couple scuffles. And now we're going to see who gets the last laugh in the octagon. But both these guys are kind of trending in the wrong direction career-wise, so it's a massive fight for one of them to settle the tide and prove that they're still a viable contender. Marvin Vettori, he's been in the UFC for almost 10 years. He's been in the top 15 since 2018, and he's fought the who's who of the weight class, but he hasn't won since 2023. He's lost 2 fights in a row, had a really bad injury he had to come back from in his last fight. And since he fought Israel Adesanya for the title in 2021, He's 2-3 in his 5 fights and been changing gyms, and it seems like he's trying to figure out how to reignite that fire. He's only 31 years old, so hopefully this fight, being against someone he doesn't like, brings that old Marvin back. But you also have to talk about the fact that Marvin is having some really tough times in his personal life right now with his brother just passing away. So hopefully he can channel that into a great performance. But Brendan Allen, he's also on a cold streak. He hasn't won since April of 2024 and has lost 2 fights in a row himself. He made it to the cusp of contention. He won 7 fights in a row and faced off with Nasri Imavov. He dominated the first round against Imavov as well, but ended up losing that fight, losing the second and third rounds. Then he fought Anthony Hernandez in February, lost via decision in that fight. So kind of a crossroads fight for Allen here for sure. During his winning streak, he didn't really defeat anyone that great either outside of Chris Curtis. So if he can't beat a halfway out the door Vettori, that would be a bad look for him. He's only 29 years old, so both these guys are pretty young. It's just going to be who still has juice left in the tank, who's mentally there, who's hungrier, who's more confident. Skills-wise, I just think Allen is the better fighter, though, man. I mean, Marvin on the feet, if he can make it more of a boxing match and get on the inside, he's going to have a chance, especially if Allen starts making dumb decisions and shooting bad takedowns and Marvin could sprawl out on him and control him. Brendan Allen could be a champion in the UFC, or at least a contender if he didn't make so many mistakes. I mean, his fight with Imavov and Hernandez, it seems like it was his own foolishness that cost him the fight. Like being too over aggressive on the ground and losing position, or when he's the better striker, like getting the better, I don't even know if you could say he's the better striker, but on that night he was getting the better of the stand-up versus Imavov a little bit, and then he's shooting these takedowns from a mile away and just hanging onto the leg and just losing himself the fight because of bad fight IQ. So that is a possibility here, but I just feel like Marvin is not what he used to be, man. He had a bad injury, he had to come back, and he's never been like a super dynamic guy. He's had to rely on being a grinder, so he has to be mentally there and ready to absorb damage, to kind of grind you out for 15 minutes. And with Brendan Allen, I just don't know if he's going to be able to outstrike Allen. Allen does have pretty solid striking. And on top of that, I don't think either of these guys are going to be that effective with the wrestling. It's probably going to end up being a wash, more of a stand-up fight. But if anyone is the better grappler, I think that it's Brendan Allen as well in that department too. So I just favor Allen in this matchup, but it's not one of those fights that I'm super interested in. I wouldn't run to the betting table on Brendan Allen here. I mean, I just feel like kind of a fight where it could go all kinds of ways. They don't like each other either, so who knows what it's going to look like, but I'm going to lean towards Brendan Allen. And closing out the prelims, we got an amazing matchup between Kyler Phillips and Vinicius Oliveira, and it's a battle between two dark horses at 135. Oliveira is looking more and more like the boogeyman of the division. He's been hunting and calling out the top guys since his first UFC fight. So far, he's 3-0 to start his UFC career, and came to the UFC already 19-3, so he was very experienced. First fight, went in there, fought Bernardo Sopaj. He was an underdog, got a highlight reel knockout. Came in his second fight against Ricky Simone, the underdog once again. And the fight with Simone, he obviously took a huge step up, fighting someone in the top 15. Got the win there. And then flew to Saudi Arabia, was an underdog for the third time in a row in the UFC. Beat Nurmagomedov. This time it was Saeed Nurmagomedov. He really wants to fight Umar, but settled for Saeed, got the victory over him. And now he's finally the favorite. He's taking on Kyler Phillips, who is 6-2 in the UFC in his own right, but coming off of a loss. And Kyler is someone that can be sensational some nights and then lackluster on other nights. He's had some great fights where he got wins over opponents like Song Yadong. He has a couple other big wins. He beat Raoni Barcelos. He beat Pedro Munoz. But his last fight, he fought Rob Font, and he dropped the ball. I think he thought that it was going to be an easier fight than it was. He thought he could just go out there and take down Rob Font, hold him down after seeing what other guys did to Rob Font. And he went in, he got some takedowns early in the beginning of the rounds, but Rob Font was able to scramble, get back up, and then pressured him and broke him really on the feet with his boxing and pressure. So Phillips needs to come in here and rebound. That was an embarrassing loss. He's the underdog for the first time in the UFC, so his stock is lower than it's ever been. And kind of needs to show everyone that he's still a threat to be reckoned with when he wins on Saturday night against Vinicius Oliveira, or if he wins. But Vinicius Oliveira, he's a great striker, very tall for the weight class, explosive, athletic, powerful. He'll switch stances. He's good at using upper body movements to slip and rip. Super hard kicker. He starts fights out chipping at fighters' legs, ripping the body with round kicks, front kicks. He'll load up on spinning kicks. I would be a little weary of throwing spin kicks or a lot of body kicks, head kicks, because I expect Phillips to be looking to get takedowns off of those. We saw Bernardo Sopaj took down Vinicius Oliveira when he threw a spin kick. And Oliveira will keep the pressure on, though. He doesn't throw his hands all that much, but when he does let his hands go, he's solid at extending his punches. He'll throw all heaters. And when he connects, he's super damaging. He hit an insane flying knee on Bernardo Sopaj, and he has 16 knockout wins. He's a guy who tends to build momentum, and when he feels you breaking, he goes for the kill. He'll really put the pedal down, and you can't let Oliveira get in his groove in there. Once he does get in his groove, hands down, starts talking to you, he is more than likely going to finish you pretty soon after that. But he has been finished with strikes in all three of his losses. He can be a little bit reckless. He can walk in with his hands down. And in his last fight, he fought a game plan I think he's going to use here. He fought a dynamic kicker, took some kicks early, but he pressured through all of Nurmagomedov's offense. He was able to put him on the cage. He was able to control him. And Kyler Phillips is a better grappler than Nurmagomedov, but Nurmagomedov is no slouch in the grappling department. He has sick chokes. He has good wrestling. And the one thing Oliveira has to worry about in this fight is if he's pressuring, Kyler is going to look to wrestle him, which Saeed took him down, but I think Kyler is more dangerous if he gets on top. If Oliveira gets taken down, he does give his back. And if Kyler could get the back, we saw Bernardo Sopaj flatten him out, had some good ground and pound on Oliveira. So Oliveira is a dog, and he's not going to just be an easy guy to go out there and finish on the map. But if Kyler Phillips is going to have any success, or I think find a finish, I think it's going to be by taking the back of Vinicius Oliveira. But if you try to wrestle Oliveira and slow down, he will make you pay for that, and he could fight through fatigue. I think his cardio is a little overrated because he gets tired, but he's just good at finding second wins, and he's dominated the third round in all of his UFC fights, so can't say much bad about that. But Kyler Phillips, high-level operator. He's been training since he was super young. I think he started jiu-jitsu at 3 years old. And he has plus skills across the board. On the feet, he's very smooth, loose, bounces around. He uses a lot of movement. He's very evasive, great speed. He'll close the distance with jabs, with straights. He mixes in kicks. He can spin. He'll throw kicks to all parts of the body and a lot of different kicks. Pretty counter-heavy with his hands. He will pull you into single or maybe 1-2s or 2-3s, 1-2 punch combinations. Good elbows. He isn't going to want to box or stay in the pocket with you, though, and he's more of a pot shotter. He only has one knockout win in the UFC, but he does hurt people early in a lot of fights. He just can't close the show. But he's a lifelong and high-level grappler. He can time takedowns, catch kicks, hit takedowns. He has a good single leg. He isn't a super active wrestler, and usually only takes takedown shots when they're easy or when he's panic wrestling. But his last fight, he decided to wrestle a lot more against Rob Font. I think it was a game plan thing, and he didn't have the cardio to do that when Rob Font was getting back up to his feet. So in this fight with Oliveira, I would go in there and strike first and don't push the wrestling like he did, because if he does, I think Oliveira will break him. But Phillips has never been finished, and he's a durable guy. He will get tired, but he has good defense even when he's tired. And, the issue to me for Phillips in this fight is going to be the pressure and just chipping away that Oliveira does over time. The optics of Oliveira walking down Phillips, trying to goad him into brawls, having fun, I think is going to be something that the judges remember. And I think Oliveira will mix in some clinch control, some takedowns. I think he can fight better fatigue than Phillips can. And I just don't think Kyler can hold him down. And I don't know if he's going to knock him out or really be able to deter him. And I think Oliveira, after seeing the fight, knows that he's going to have an advantage in the pocket. He can bully Kyler Phillips a little bit. So I'm going to say Oliveira wins via decision. And now we're making it into the main card. First fight on the main card, we got Daniel Zellhuber and Michael Johnson. And, man, this is a card for the OGs with the main event being Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. And one thing that's pretty cool is, and shocking to me, is this is the first time Michael Johnson has ever been on the main card of a UFC pay-per-view. Took him 30 fights to get to that position. So shout out to Michael Johnson for hanging around. And he's been in the UFC since 2011. He's had some amazing wins. And it seemed like he partied a lot. And he had some regrets about how he handled himself during his prime. And he's turned his life around. He's fully dedicated himself to the sport, and it's extended his career. And he still has hopes getting big money fights, maybe even back in the rankings, the title contention. So in order to get there, he has to get past this young buck in Zellhuber. But he's won 3 of his last 4 fights and been looking pretty good. He's coming off a highlight reel knockout. Zellhuber making his comeback fight, fighting for the first time since his fight of the year battle with Esteban Ribovics. And he hasn't been in the UFC for that long, but he's made a name for himself amongst hardcore fans as a blood and guts Mexican warrior. He's won performance of the night in all 3 of his fights in the UFC, and this is his first fight of 2025. He kind of needs a win, though, because he obviously still is valued by the company because he's fighting a UFC legend on a pay-per-view main card, but he doesn't want to be 3-3 in his first 6 UFC fights, getting a 39-year-old up-and-down guy. So Zellhuber should try to impress and put MJ away here. And you look at Daniel Zellhuber, he's a pressure fighter, super long limbs. He wants to walk fighters down, stand right in front of them, force them to close the void, and then use his knees, use his kicks. When you close the gap, he likes to counter with crosses, check hooks. His last fight, he landed a sick elbow in round 3 that dropped Ribovics. And when he can go forward and get on the inside and start letting his combinations go, he'll rip the body. He isn't super fast, but he has good extension on his punches. He'll throw long combinations, really nasty body head. And, yeah, man, great conditioning. He's someone that, as fights go on, he becomes more dangerous because fighters get less explosive closing the distance, and he can start to walk them down, take more risks, land more as they're trying to close the gap and just be more effective with the style. But his style is also dangerous because he's right there to be hit. He's been dropped and rocked in multiple fights early. And if you can close the gap quick and land hard on Zellhuber, you can hurt him. And he has an iron chin. I mean, he has been rocked in all of his fights, but he comes back. He doesn't get knocked out. And he's not going to look to wrestle here, and I don't think he's going to really face much of a wrestling threat. But, yeah, man, it's going to be a stand-up fight. It's probably going to be a battle of attrition. And you look at Michael Johnson, he fights pretty similarly in every fight. He likes to sit in the southpaw stance, uses hand speed, pull fighters into that power left hand, pull them into the right hook. He's willing to sit in the pocket and brawl it out. And, I expect him to try to get the job done early. He has to have seen Zellhuber as a slow starter and can be cracked in the beginning of fights. MJ needs to be sharp, ready to close that gap and throw heat. And if he can land flush, he could sleep Zellhuber. For Zellhuber, it's just about trying to catch MJ, closing that void, making him make a mistake. And Johnson's been put to sleep before multiple times now. So he's still pretty durable, but Zellhuber has to have the durability advantage. And Michael Johnson has a shot here because he's not facing a wrestler. He's facing someone that's hittable. But I think if he wants the best chance to win, it needs to be early. He's going to probably land, and he could hurt Zoe Huber, but Zoe Huber has never been knocked out, and until it happens, I'm not going to predict someone like Michael Johnson cracks his chin. I know MJ is knocked out some of the best. I mean, shit, he knocked out Dustin Poirier, but I just feel like, where these guys are at in their careers, it's hard to pick Michael Johnson here. It is a dog or pass from a money line perspective, in my opinion, because I think if it goes to decision, it's going to be very competitive. And I think that Johnson has a good chance to get an early knockout as well. But MJ is just a habitual ball dropper, 15-15 in his 5 UFC fight, or in his 30 UFC fights. And it's just hard to trust him to survive 15 minutes against a durable Terminator, young guy that's going to be walking him down. You just think at some point he's going to start to get overwhelmed and Zoe Huber could get him out of there. So I'm leaning towards the youth of Zoe Huber, and that's what I'm going to go with. And up next, we got an amazing fight with Patricio Pitbull taking on Dan Ige. Both guys making a fairly quick turnaround. They both fought on UFC 312. Dan Ige, he got the knockout win. Patricio Pitbull, long-awaited UFC debut, didn't go his way, lost a decision. For Ige, that win snapped a 2-fight losing streak. And Pitbull, he's lost 3 of his last 4, so both guys kind of need wins to gain momentum, but Ige's been looking a little bit better. Ige hasn't won 2 fights in a row, though, since 2023, so this would be huge for him. And Pitbull obviously talked a big game. He had an amazing resume over in Bellator, so it would be pretty devastating for him to start 0-2 in the UFC. His first UFC fight, he was coming back off a year off, and he knocked the rust off, got his feet wet in the UFC, and I think this is an easier matchup for him, so it's a winnable fight. If Pitbull is going to make any noise in the company, this is a must-win for him. And for Ige, this would probably be the best win outside of Edson Barbosa in his career. So it would be a feather in his cap, and it would be his ticket to another crack at the top 10. But stylistically, Patricio Pitbull, super sharp counter striker. On the feet, he likes to maintain the center. He stays planted. He's ready to explode in and out. He'll throw heavy leg kicks. He's really good at slipping jabs and straights and returning with his own punches. He has big power in his hands, and he doesn't need much to finish a fight. Both these guys are super heavy hitters. And when Pitbull has you hurt, his combinations are nasty. He's knocked guys out even at 155 pounds like Michael Chandler. And he stays very defensively responsible. He's super sharp. He picks you apart with pot shots. He'll lower you and then bang with big punches. He will force takedowns from his opponents, and when they shoot on him, his guillotines are nasty, and he almost hit an armbar in his last fight. The issue with Pitbull's style was exposed, though, against Yair. He's not big for the weight class. He relies on fighters coming to him, and he has good timing. If you overextend, he's going to counter you. He's going to time a double, but he doesn't really have the ability to back you up and get the takedown without you making a mistake most of the time. And if you don't give him counter opportunities in boxing range and have the length and kicking ability to keep him at bay, you can pull him into power, and he doesn't really have a lot of answers. He's not usually willing to pressure, and when he does pressure, he leaves openings. We saw Yair drop him in round 3 of their last fight, and Pitbull's chin is not as good as it used to be, so he can't take as many risks. In this fight, he's fighting someone more similar to him, a shorter, more compact fighter who likes to stay defensive and then counter with power. I think Pitbull is a bit sharper and cleaner, and his leg kicks can be effective here in this matchup. I also think he has the more dangerous grappling. Both guys are black belts, so I don't really see a submission or finish on the map, but Pitbull's front chokes, back takes are a little more threatening than anything Ige has to offer, in my opinion. But Dan Ige is coming off yet another knockout, and he continues to move up the record books in that regard. If he gets another knockout, he will tie Conor McGregor and Chad Mendes for the 3rd most knockouts in UFC featherweight history with 6. And Ige, he also likes to stay planted, ready to explode, hands high. He looks to cut the cage off, pressure, unload with a big right hand. If you stay in the pocket, he's going to sit down and brawl it out with you. Sharp counters, nice check hooks, good rear crosses, overhands, and you can land calf kicks on him, but he also throws calf kicks of his own. I wouldn't say he's as quick as Pitbull and his footwork isn't as good, but he has longer arms. He's a little younger, probably more durable, so he has his own advantages. And he has tremendous cardio. I think he probably does have the cardio edge as well, even though both these guys have good conditioning. Ige's never been finished before, so that's a big feather in his cap. And Ige, strong grappler. He has been taken down in fights, and he has to be careful not to overextend against Pitbull, because I do think Pitbull may be trying to time some takedowns in this one, but Ige, I don't think he's going to shoot, and he's going to try to keep it standing. But I expect this to be a chess match. I think if it goes the distance, I'm going to lean Pitbull. I see him working calf kicks. I think he's going to be the sharper, faster, a bit more tactical striker. Ige only needs one, so he has the equalizer. And Pitbull's older. He's aging. He's been getting hurt recently. He even got knocked out. But I personally think if Pitbull is going to get a UFC win, which he has to be very hungry for, it's going to be this fight. It's a good matchup for him. Give me Pitbull via decision. I think he's going to get in the win column in the UFC and stamp his name as a real, true UFC fighter. And up next, we got another fight that was supposed to go down a while back with Daniel Rodriguez and Kevin Holland. If you remember, these guys were going to fight on that Nate Diaz versus Chimaev card that turned into Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson, and then Kevin Holland fought Chimaev. Daniel Rodriguez fought the Leech, Li Jingliang, and Daniel Rodriguez ended up getting the win on that night. Kevin Holland got mauled by Chimaev. But now they're in way different parts of their careers, where Kevin Holland is kind of surging at this point. This is his fourth fight in the UFC, kind of reminiscent of the year that he went on the big run in 2020, 2021, whatever year that was, where he fought quite a few times. And Daniel Rodriguez has won 2 fights in a row, but I actually thought that he lost to Morono, and then his last fight, it was kind of a sloppy back and forth fight, and then he got the finish in the third against Ponzi, where you could say that Kevin Holland had a similar performance versus Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio isn't the easiest guy to beat, but I didn't think D-Rod looked like a prime D-Rod in that fight with Ponzi. But, you know, I mean, this is a tough fight for D-Rod, obviously. On the feet, I think that Kevin Holland could pull him into strikes and kind of keep him at distance and use his kicks. I think his body attacks is what Holland wants to do, is go to D-Rod's body. D-Rod's been hurt to the body in multiple fights, so attack his body, front kicks, round kicks, punches, try to not get backed up and just be evasive, and then pull D-Rod into something. We've seen D-Rod get knocked out with the head kick. I mean, D-Rod is durable, though. He's someone that can take a shot and keep coming forward, and he has good boxing. If he can back up Holland and put his hands together, he could maybe have some success. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout on the feet. I think that D-Rod will press and have some moments. I think he's going to be a hard guy to finish, but he just has some bad performances recently, man. Like, the one image I can't get out of my head from him is getting submitted by Neil Magny with the Dars. It's like, if you could let that happen versus Neil, even though that fight was competitive and D-Rod was winning the fight, it seemed like you can't overlook that, you know, because Holland could easily do the same. And I just feel like Holland is way more dynamic of a guy. He's looks like he is going to potentially be able to go on a run at 170. I mean, the guy went to a split decision with the champ, Jack Della, in a pretty competitive striking match. So I just feel like it's Kevin Holland's time, and if he goes in there and is on point, he's going to serve up and dominate D-Rod. I mean, he has every advantage here. But, yeah, man, at this price, when you're paying like over 4-1 on Kevin Holland, I think that's a little bit nuts. I mean, I think I've said that a few times, and he's easily covered the price in his recent fights, so I can't keep saying that. But I just feel like it's hard to trust Kevin Holland at that price with some of the antics and things that he's done in the past. But It's his fight to lose, and he should dominate and probably get the finish first, D-Rod. And co-main event time, we got Roman Kopylov taking on Paulo Costa. After nearly 2 years off, Paulo Costa, he reemerged last year. He had 2 fights against 2 of the top fighters in the weight division. He fought Rob Whittaker, he fought Sean Strickland, lost via decision in both fights. His last fight, it was maligned for being extremely boring, but his fight with Whittaker, he had a good performance, so it was a bit of a mixed bag for him in terms of how he fought, but he's taken a pretty big step down here when he faces Roman Kopylov. His last 6 fights, he's fought former champions or UFC title challengers. Now he's fighting a guy who's never even touched the top 10. And Costa's a fun personality. He's been in the UFC forever. He was on The Ultimate Fighter Brazil more than 10 years ago. He was on that show. And this is a must-win for him, though. If he loses this fight, I wouldn't be shocked if he never fought again. And he hasn't won a fight in quite a long time. But Roman Kopylov, he started slow in UFC. Or excuse me, he did win against Luke Rockhold. I'm sorry. But besides that, Roman Kopylov started slow in UFC. He has won 6 of his last 7 fights, though, and he really turned himself into a fan favorite because of his style. He's a super high-level striker, knockout artist. He has 5 knockout wins in his last 6 fights. And his last fight, he proved he could knock you out even until the dying second of the fight. He got a TKO with 1 second left on the clock versus Chris Curtis. And he's been beating who's been put in front of him, but it wasn't the cream of the crop competition before the Curtis fight. So this is the biggest name by far that Kopylov has fought, and probably the most well-rounded MMA fighter he's going to have faced to date. But Kopylov, he's going to be looking to use Costa as a stepping stone and get in title contention with the win. So we'll see if he can get the job done Saturday night. And you look at Kopylov, he's an experienced guy. He's a southpaw, long and fast. He's very polished. He's good at pulling fighters into his big straight left hand. His jab is nasty. He has excellent footwork. He does a good job of mixing up between the body and the head. He has some of the best body punching in the sport. Amazing hand combinations, and he throws brutal kicks too. His body kicks are dynamic, but he can throw kicks to all parts of the body. In his last fight, he ended with a head kick. He uses dynamic movements, kicks. He's really fast twitch. Defensively, Kopylov controls distance, and he's ready to counter effectively. He also keeps his hands high when he's fresh, and his defense is good, but it can fall apart a little bit when he slows down. He'll start to drop his hands. He's less fast with his offense. He'll stand in front of you more. And he doesn't have the best poker face, so when he's tired or he's hurt, it's pretty obvious, which isn't good for judges, but he could wear damage, though. He's never been knocked out, and you have to make it a brawl, get in Kopylov's face and box him to really get to him if you can't take him down. You probably will have to eat some big left hands to get inside, but you have to get past that kicking range if you're an opponent of Kopylov. And, you know, if I'm Kopylov, my camp was about cardio, defending pressure, leg kicks, body kicks, then keeping the fight on the feet. At range, he's the more technical striker. And Kopylov's losses have primarily been versus wrestlers. He's worked diligently on improving his takedown defense, though, and he had a run of defending 20-plus takedowns in the UFC. But Anthony Hernandez broke that streak and submitted Kopylov. And Kopylov, when he does actually get put on bottom, he isn't good. He'll give his back to stand up. He can be broken. He's gotten submitted with a rear naked choke on more than one occasion. And he has a tendency to fade hard, but recently he's been getting second wins. And he got tired, beat up in round 2 versus both Cesar Almeida and Chris Curtis, but he did a good job bouncing back and winning the 3rd round. And Kopylov won't wrestle offensively here, I doubt. I mean, if he does, I think he's going to be in trouble. And he did use his wrestling versus Cesar Almeida. He also got a takedown late versus Chris Curtis. So he is working on the double, and it's nice. But I think if he's wrestling Costa here, he's losing. And Costa, pressure fighter. He's one of the best athletes in the division. And his presence alone is intimidating due to his power, his physique. Although that's kind of waned a little bit now that he's taken losses. But he's very explosive. He throws lightning fast kicks in his own right. He has to go forward in this fight where he can press Kopylov, and I think he should try to land a lot of leg kicks, body kicks, use the jab, set up big punches. He's been pretty low volume as far as the hands go in his 3 comeback fights.
he tends to throw just one big hook, one big cross, one overhand when he throws to the head. On the inside, he is good at finding the body with hooks, but I think that he needs to try to open up a little bit more with his punches. He can't just rely on that chuck hook or right hand. And his kicks are his main weapon, though. He throws heavy leg kicks, body kicks. His kicks looked especially fast versus Rob Whittaker. He actually rocked Rob Whittaker with a heel kick to the head in the end of round one. And if there was a little more time, he could have potentially gotten him out of there. And if Costa can chop the legs and Kopylov more stationary, is good shape, I could see him taking over. He's the more durable fighter. I think he's going to be slower in terms of the hands, but if he can get Kopylov moving backwards, work the body, slow him down, put damage on him, I think that he could potentially get back in the win column. And you look at Paulo Costa's grappling, he's not shown it much, but I think it's underrated. If he can get on top of Kopylov, I do think he could do damage, maybe find a finish. But I don't know if he's really going to wrestle. It's probably going to be a stand-up fight. I honestly think this is close to a 50-50 fight. Roman Kopylov has the momentum. He's a little cleaner. He's longer. But Costa's more durable. He maintains his gas tank better. Probably the bigger dog if it becomes a dog fight. Both guys are 34, so that's a wash. And they both had a lot of UFC fights. They both taken damage. On the feet early, I think Kopylov will be throwing and landing more. But if Costa can make his strikes count by going to the legs, going to the body, pressuring, opening up, when he gets Kopylov backed up, using the jab and maybe busting Kopilov's face up like he did Whittaker, I think Kopylov may break. And I could also see Kopylov shooting a bad takedown, getting reversed, ending up on bottom. If Costa comes in flat, Kopylov could just pick him apart, outclass him. But I think it's do or die for Costa here. And he's getting an easier opponent than Sean Strickland for his style. Rob Whittaker, who's also a great kicker and mover, did beat Costa, but Costa performed really well. And I think if that same version shows up, he can take this victory and maybe get a late TKO or decision win. We saw Cesar Almeida versus Kopylov, and if Kopylov couldn't get the takedowns in that matchup, he likely would have lost. And I think he's not going to take Paulo down. So if Paulo puts that pressure on him and could really get his striking going, I think he could become the first guy to TKO Kopylov or at least decision him. So give me Paulo Costa here in the upset. I'm going to say Costa comes back and picks up a big victory here.
And finally, we got the main event, what the whole card was built around, Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. He's going to be making one final walk to finally get paid in full in front of his hometown fans in Louisiana. And most fighters, they don't get to have a retirement match as a pay-per-view headliner, but Dustin Poirier, he's earned it over 30 fights in the UFC. He's claimed interim status, BMF status. He fought for the undisputed UFC title 3 times. He's actually coming off a title fight versus Islam Makhachev and 15 performance of the night bonuses, 2 with Max Holloway, so he's likely going to go out with another. And this fight, it doesn't do much for Poirier's legacy. I mean, a loss doesn't mean much, in my opinion, in the eyes of the fans. I believe it's a chance for DP to feel the appreciation, go out against another legend, future Hall of Famer. And standing across from him is going to be Max Holloway, the former UFC champion, current BMF champion. And he has a lot of records, but he's going to be looking to avoid a dubious one on Saturday night. If Max loses this fight, he's going to be the first person in UFC history, and I don't know, I mean, probably not many people in MMA history could say that they've gone 0-6 in trilogy fights. He's 0-3 against Volk, 0-2 against Dustin so far, so we'll see if he can avoid that fate. But the last time he fought Volk when he was 0-2, he took a thumping, so hopefully he has a better showing here. And Holloway's last fight was also a title fight. He faced the current pound-for-pound number 1 fighter in the world, Ilia Topuria. And like Poirier, he was on the losing end of that fight. And for Holloway, he was knocked out for the first time in 36 fights. And he's been known for having an iron chin, but he got dropped versus Gaethje, which was the first time that happened to him, and then put out by Topuria. So I hope this is not a Chuck Liddell type situation forming with Holloway, but Holloway is still 33, and, you know, he's the younger man here.
he has absorbed the most strikes in UFC history, but he's also dished out the most significant strikes. And the last time he fought at 155, he delivered one of the greatest knockouts of all time. He is the reigning champion coming in here, so he's defending the crown, looking to spoil DP's retirement, send the crowd home crying. For Holloway, it's a much bigger fight. He still wants to hang around and be a champion again. If he loses here, especially if it's a knockout loss or he looks bad, there's going to be calls for him to retire as well. So Holloway needs to win here, establish himself as a true contender at 155, put that last loss to Ilya behind him, and see if he can work his way into a rematch with Ilya. But the last time these two fought, it was an instant classic. Dustin Poirier really put it on Max early, but Max picked it up, had some moments, and Poirier was doing an excellent job of finding the left hand in the first fight, or in the second fight, excuse me. He was working off the jab and double, tripling it up. He was using a jab and then walking forward with multiple jabs, switching stances, and then coming through with the big rear cross, rear overhands. He landed some nasty hooks as well, and he just couldn't miss early. Whenever these two sat in the pocket and exchanged in the beginning of the fight when DP was fresh, he was just a lot more powerful and pushing back Max. But, I mean, I honestly don't know if in 2025 Max Holloway could take those same shots. He just was getting hit so clean on the button, and he actually got really wobbled badly. I mean, you could argue that Dustin dropped him and he just got saved by the fence, but Max Holloway had success as well with long combinations. He was touching, he was going to the body, he was backing Dustin up and melting him a bit at times. But ultimately, Dustin's power was the difference maker, and Dustin was also able to mix in some takedowns to control Max, which I don't think people are giving enough credit in the fourth and fifth round. And whenever Max looked like he was starting to get rolling, he got clipped and wobbled in round 3. He did seem to finally be getting to Dustin and force him to try to wrestle, but between rounds 3 and 4, Dustin recovered. He got a takedown in round 4 to change the pace of the fight. He ended up hurting Max really badly at the end of the fourth. And, I mean, he just pretty much dominated that fight. The issue is, will Max be able to eat those shots like he used to for me? Because if he has to be able to do that, and he has to get on the inside, I think go to the body, be ready to pull counter. Because at distance, it just seemed like DP was able to close that gap pretty effectively with switch stances and then just doubling up or tripling up on the jab or the left hand to close the distance. And he was doing a good job of switching stance to kind of not have to overextend so much. And it was really effective. I mean, it seemed like Max did not see the double left hand coming. And I just don't know, man. I mean, Max Holloway, he's 0-3 against southpaws. Obviously, 2 against DP, 1 versus Conor. So it's not like he's fought too many southpaws. But I think he struggles to see that left hand coming sometimes, especially when you could find it in a finesse way, and the right hand as well. And I just think DP is the heavier hitter. Even if Max is gaining weight and trying to bulk up, like, you look at his fight with Justin Gaethje. Gaethje was not able to close that gap like I think Dustin Poirier is going to be able to do. And I'm hearing a lot of chatter and talk about the retirement being a big factor in this fight, but I just don't really think it is. I mean, I think there's certain guys where that could play a factor, but Dustin Poirier, the guy has a brand. He's already made money. I mean, he could go out there and grind probably 6-7 figures without ever fighting again. So it's not like he needs to do this to get a final paycheck. He can make money without fighting. So, I mean, obviously it's not going to be the fast money right there for you, but it's more, to me, this fight for Dustin is just to go out in his own terms, to go out with a win, and he has everything around him to succeed and kind of go out in a storybook kind of way. But a lot of the time, the sport is unforgiving. But I don't know, man. I mean, I just feel like Dustin can close the distance with the switch stance crosses, doubling up on the left hand, double, triple jabbing his way in. And I got a feeling Dustin's going to crack Max, man. And I think we're going to see kind of the demise of Max a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to say Dustin Poirier wins via first round knockout in this fight. Just something tells me, man, that Max's chin is not going to hold up in this one. And maybe I'm wrong. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. But I think Max is finally going to show all the wars and the attrition has finally got to him. And I'm going to say Dustin Poirier first round knockout. So it's going to be a great ending for him to end his career if that's exactly how it goes. But there you have it, guys. That was a full card breakdown of predictions for UFC 318. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it and you do appreciate this work, put a comment down below. Hit the like button. Share the video. I would love as much engagement as possible. It helps keep the channel going and growing the audience. But yeah, man, let's try to get as many views and likes as possible on this video. Comments below. And if you want access to extra content, check out patreon.com/InPredictionGuru. It is going to be in the description. As far as my parlay of the week this week, play of the week, I'm just going to say to do a play of the week of Patricio Pitbull. So that's going to be my free play for you guys. Thanks for watching once again. I'm out. Later.